I was talking to a new hobbyist recently who was surprised to learn that SPS corals can be aggressive, and in fact many places online actually describe SPS corals as peaceful. So today I'm going to share my experiences with SPS coral warfare to show you why SPS corals shouldn't be considered to be truly peaceful, and I'll tell you what you can do to avoid World War III. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out when I upload. Now, many LPS corals are labelled as aggressive because they have sweeper tentacles that sting and kill anything in range. But SPS corals don't have sweeper tentacles, and their polyps only extend a few millimeters away from their skeletons, and that's probably why they're not classed as aggressive. They don't have weapons to send out and attack their neighbours. However, while you will often be advised to keep LPS corals a good distance away from other corals to prevent warfare, the same is actually good advice for SPS corals. And you could argue SPS corals can be just as aggressive as LPS. The only difference is they need to grow into their neighbours before they mount their attack. Here are some examples of what I'm talking about. This is a plating tropic thunder Montipora, and it's growing over the red planet Aquapora to the right. It doesn't seem to sting it, it just smothers the acro and keeps growing over it. But to the left of the same coral it's a different story, and this Aquapora is, for now at least, holding its ground. But that doesn't mean you can necessarily pick which coral is strong and which is weak. I have another red planet acro that's in the process of smothering one of its neighbours, which unfortunately for me just so happens to be the most expensive frag in my tank. Cheers mate. My other plating Montipora, this lovely undata, is also smothering its neighbours, and it's making a good fist of outcompeting this hybrid shortcake acro, whilst simultaneously doing battle with this Jason Fox kryptonite acro. And encrusting Monties are no exception. The tabling Aquapora to the right used to be bright pink and is slowly getting smothered by one of only 2 encrusting Monties I have in the tank. But SPS attacks can be more dramatic. This lovely crazy T-Monty recently touched the bright green acro to its right, instantly wiping out half of the coral. And the crazy T itself is also a victim of the same thing anytime the Aquapora efflorescence to its left makes contact. In fact, the encrusting patch of the efflow is now on territory that used to be occupied by the crazy T. And another similar, or possibly the same Monty in my tank is currently having a Mexican standoff with my strawberry shortcake acro. You can see the no man's land down the middle, which is where the battle will be won and lost. And those more subtle battles happen all over my tank. The strawberry shortcake has stung a very small piece of Miyagi tort and is gently encrusting over the patch it's killed. Once it's done so, it'll then try to sting another patch and repeat the process. It's also attacking on several fronts and is doing the exact same thing around the back. Elsewhere, these two corals are at a crucial stage of the battle. The Cyphastria to the right is winning at one point towards the top, but looks to be losing at another slightly lower down, and it's too early to say who'll win. The final example I have to show you is my Stylophora, and this is one coral that appears to be expunging its stomach onto its neighbour. Now this was just a frag that had fallen down, so I moved it before it did any real damage, but you can bet your bottom dollar the Sunset Monty to the left would have lost this fight. So how do you stop this happening in your tank then? Well, the best way is of course to give all of your SPS corals space to grow and buy half as many corals as you're currently planning. Levels are another good way of creating room, as it'll take longer for the corals to grow up and start their attack. And a properly well thought out placement plan can mean it'll be years on end before you have to worry about this. And you can always trim off any branches that are getting too close. Doing so of course brings the breezy bonus of creating a nice frag you can sell on. But ultimately, coral warfare is more or less inevitable in the vast majority of tanks, and I actually think it's pretty cool to observe close up the behaviour these corals exhibit in the wild. It's survival of the fittest, so as often as not, I just let nature take its course. And all of this is the reason I'm personally no longer particularly interested in feeding my corals and increasing my pH in order to promote growth. Growth is great when your tank is relatively new, but there comes a time when it's almost more of a problem than a good thing. And it just creates more tank admin in a hobby that can already fairly be described as something of a time sponge.